Hi, everybody. Welcome to the John Myer podcast. Today's topic: what's new with Veeam Data Platform? Integrating additional functionalities while bolstering security and resiliency. Now, before we get to that topic, how about we give our guests a chance to introduce themselves?
Hi, my name is Adiel, and I'm a cloud solution architect working for Veeam in the Cloud Alliances.
Roy, talk to me about what Veeam is.
So, Veeam is a company to protect your data with backup and replication and resiliency of your entire data set. So, it means that throughout the life cycle of your data from production to backup and archive and deep archive for different reasons, Veeam helps you to achieve your resiliency with your data.
Roy, recently Veeam had a number of updates. Can you talk to me about them?
Yes, for sure. So, in addition to the ability to back up EC2 instances with directly to S3, we've recently added the ability to add RDS backup, so Postgres backup to S3. And why does it matter, right? Traditionally, you could have back it up to snapshots. Now, with the ability to back up to S3, not only that you can create tiers, so cascade that data and put it in archive tier for long-term storage for compliance reasons or for any reason that you need to store the data longer, but also we're talking about a significant cost reduction with backing up to S3 comparing to backing up to snapshots. As customers know, snapshots are a little bit more expensive and they don't give the ability to do that cascading tiering. So that's one thing that we've improved.
Roy, talk to me about the addition of the DynamoDB backups.
Yeah, so we've added the ability to back up DynamoDB. We're using the native tools of AWS to use that, but the additional capability that we're bringing is that you have a one-stop shop to back up everything, and you have a single pane of glass. So if you're connecting Veeam Backup for AWS with Veeam Backup and Replication, you have this point where you can see your entire backup infrastructure, manage it, control it, see what's going on with it, get alerting and monitoring around it, and be able just to control your environment and predict on what you're doing with your backups and how do you restore them, where do you restore them, where do you keep them, and how much does all of this cost you?
Talking about where you actually back them up or store them, what additional capabilities did you put in place for on-prem objects?
So that's a thank you for that. That's actually a great additional addition that we've brought, where now we have the ability to back up object wherever you want it to be backed up. So you take the object that sits on-prem or on any cloud, any S3 compatible storage, in fact, and then you have the ability to go directly to your choice of cloud backup. And again, that capability enhanced with the benefit of using tiering and cascading. And our customers can see somewhat more than 70% uh, price reduction comparing to what they'll do in their traditional on-prem, or if they need to, they run out of storage in their on-prem environment, they don't want to reinvest in a refresh in their on-prem, and they still need to store that data. If you're talking about financial institutions that needs to store that object, if you're talking about medical facilities, right? So all those X-ray images that are massive and they keep growing, those are objects that now can go into a cloud-based backup and stored in a lower tier that is very cheap relative to on-prem or to standard S3 storage. And then you can keep it for that amount of years that you need to keep it for.
Veeam natively backs up EC2 instances, EBS, EFS, VPCs. You have a number of you have the file level restore, the snapshot restore. Now we're talking about the additional capabilities of backing up on-prem objects to S3, DynamoDB. Am I still getting all the features that Veeam provides natively for EC2, EFS, and VPC with these new capabilities?
Yes, all those capabilities that were there are still there in enhancement. And what we can do today, in addition, is when customers want to deploy, let's say enterprise customers, they're really concerned about the security and how do they implement, how do they restrict the environments when they're deploying. So this is another feature that or set of features that we've actually enabled where you can have more automated but still private deployment. So you won't go into the public S3 endpoints, for example, but you have a complete set of end deployment or private end deployment from your on-prem through a VPN or a direct connect or wherever you choose to connect to your cloud environment. And then even in the cloud environment, when you're doing those native backups there for your EC2 instances and so on, you'll go through the private endpoints rather than going into the internet. So you increase the security.
Wait a second, Roy. Talk to me more about the security aspect of it, because if you went through the public endpoints, here's what's going to happen. I'm very concerned as a customer. My data is going over the internet, not through VPN, not through any type of a security thing. But it seems that Veeam has thought of the security aspect of going from on-prem into the cloud.
Yes, and that's why we're enabling the using of KMS keys. We're enabling the use of private connections into the data center, into the cloud data center or remote data center natively from VBR, and there we can actually protect the data and make sure that wherever it comes from point A to point B, it's secure and resilient. And all of that is actually coming to you're surely familiar with our 32110 rule, right?
Wait a second. Roy, so I'm familiar with the 32110 rule. How about you explain to the audience what it is?
Sure. So 321 and the additional of 10 that Veeam added means that you want to have at least three copies of the data. One copy is the production and two other copies in two different media types. So if we're talking about AWS in this case, is that with an on-prem, you have one in on-prem and one in AWS, you're complying with that. And the one will means that you're gonna have one offline copy. So offline is kind of tricky and interesting. If you're looking at the on-prem, maybe if you put it on tape, you're making it offline. In the cloud, what we're saying to making it offline, making it kind of disconnected from the different production entities. So you put it on a different AWS account and so on. And the 1 and 0 that Veeam added are talking about the one says have at least one copy offline or immutable. I would say in some cases and immutable, right? Because what immutability means, and if we're adding encryption to it, when you want to protect yourself from cyber security activities, from hackers and so on, when you're sending the data into the cloud, first you encrypt it. So then this case means that you're protecting it from data theft. If someone will access the data and will try to steal it, and we know that it happens, right? Veeam, the research Veeam said every 2 out of 3 customers said that they experienced ransomware activity in the last year. So it's not when, well,
It's not if, it's
it's
when when it's gonna happen.
correct. So so that's one thing, right? So if they'll steal the data, it's encrypted and protected. So that's one thing. And if it's immutable, the other thing is that they cannot change the data. And that's also important because we see that hackers are actually targeting backups because they know that it's the important place for customers to save data, and then customers will restore. So where's the effectiveness of being a hacker, if you say? So when we're putting that data in another account, segregating it, making sure that only what or who needs to access that data can access it, but also making it immutable, the data is safe from being altered, the data is safe from being read and stolen, and that kind of increased the entire security set of making sure that your data is resilient. Now let's talk about the last zero, right? So that's also important, and sometimes I think it's an area that customers might kind of slide or miss. We're talking about have no errors when you're testing the backups. Testing the backups on some cadence, making sure, for example, CRC errors, or if you're reading the data to an isolated environment, to see that when you're restoring, you actually can restore. So practice that. So that the last zero is talking about, let's make sure that everything that we back up, all that backup strategy is
I think that's
actually
the
usable.
last thing that people try to do or test out to do is their backups, that it's able to restore, right?
Yes.
It takes time, it takes processes, it takes the availability to actually do that. And you just hope one day you're never going to need it, like insurance. And if it's there, it works, right?
Exactly. And what we said, the additional ability to back up RDS Postgres, or the additional capabilities of, or the capabilities that we already have, right, to back up EC2 into S3, that makes that data also portable. So if you're, let's say, if you're hacked and you don't have access to your backup server, you don't have access to your AWS regular production accounts, you can still take that data that is completely portable, deploy Veeam Backup for AWS, or Veeam Backup and replication anywhere you want. And when you get access to that data, the data set knows what it is and you can restore it anywhere. So also not just restore to AWS, right? If you have an EC2, a cloud native EC2 backup, you can restore it on-prem. You can restore it to another cloud. You have multiple capabilities of making sure that you'll be able to recover as fast as you can.
Roy, talk to me about the future of Veeam. What's the direction you're going into?
So we're doubling and tripling down on security and resiliency, right? That's a lot of the things that you're doing, from making sure that our customers will be safe when something like a ransomware activity, hackers, penetration of that sort will happen. They'll be able to restore and recover quickly, because we know that sometimes, data is the most important asset of the customer. And if they don't have access to their data, can't they can perform. And we've seen multiple cases, right? It doesn't matter if it's a financial institution that can't transact, or if it's a hospital that can't accept patients. So we're talking about a lot of very, very important matters to that. From a technical perspective and our roadmap, what we're planning is we're listening to the customers. So we're exploring additional capabilities to back up native cloud or native specific AWS features to add to our portfolio of products or services that you can back up. And we're actually listening to the customers. So customers that need additional capabilities, reach out to us. We are listening, and we're trying to add that to the roadmap where applicable, because again, we know that it's important to the customers and they want their data safe and secure.
Roy, before I wrap things up, my last question for you is, what advice would you give to customers out there looking to not only secure and back up their environment, but efficiently and cost effectively?
I would say, you know what? I know I work for Veeam, but I would say start,
Yeah.
check,
I was
look.
waiting for you to go Veeam. I mean,
Of course, Veeam. But what I would say is you can start for free today and test it. If you go to the AWS Marketplace to deploy Veeam backup for AWS, you have the ability to deploy and backup up to 10 instances for free, completely free. So go give it a try, see how easy it to deploy. With 15 minutes, you can start deploying your and backing up your EC2 instances. It's not a marketing item. It's actually, that's how long it takes to kind of deploy, maybe 30 minutes. And also with your on-prem and hybrid, you have the ability to either deploy Veeam backup replication from the marketplace easily, or deploy it in your on-prem for free and back up those up to 10 on-prem instances as well, right? So up to 10 appliances for free. And sorry, maybe not appliances, but again, instances. And you'll be able to see kind of the overall picture when you connect Veeam backup and replication with Veeam backup for AWS. And you'll benefit both of them and get that kind of single pane of glass of how your backup strategy look like.
Roy, I've used Veeam, I've installed Veeam, I tested it out. I want to know what I'm playing with, and how the availability of this. The free trial is actually really great. It provides a lot of power at your fingertips. I really enjoyed the VPC data backup feature. I don't think anybody's ever thought of that and how critical it is. I walked through the restore process. I tested out a production thing and I removed a route just to see if I would break some things and how quickly. And it's just like that for the restore. The functionality is awesome and easy to use. And you have the console is very simple. I mean, it's not over, like, it's not even complicated at all. It walks you through the steps, like getting started. I absolutely like how I can back up my personal environment using their free stuff and get a feel for it before I can talk more about it.
Yeah, it is. And, with all that, when you said you tried it, right? The ability to have a restore for the VPC, just like you said, but restore a specific item from that VPC from a specific point in time. This is actually very useful when you have a large environment and someone changed something. Not necessarily by malicious activity, but just regular
It's
operation.
bound to happen.
Yeah, in a huge environment, you just, oh, I did one, two, three, and maybe it's wrong. I want to go back to two.
Yep.
And you can do that in a matter of seconds. And also, if you're restoring, RDS, or if you're restoring EC2, the granularity of being able to decide, hey, I want to restore this entire EC2 instance to wherever, or just a file from it, it's very helpful for customers to be able to just, get back to speed whenever they need it with V.
Thank you, Roy, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody. This has been another awesome episode for the John Myer podcast. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, and notify, because guess what? We're out of here.